Oh my god. Hello? 911? Yeah, I'd like to report. It looks like it's a hostage situation. Can you see how many people are being held hostage? 1 second. I'm not really sure. I see quite a few people over there, but it doesn't look like all of them are being held hostage. Do you happen to be looking at Genshin Impact right now? Oh, we get this call all the time. No, you see, they're not hostages. They're released at least once a year for people to be able to see them. All right, how you doing? How you doing? And how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Patty, and it's our first Genshin video in many a moon. So, we had to open up with some jokes. I'm sorry about that. We had to do it. Because I mean, it's a little goofy, and they are literally holding characters hostage. They made $100 million on certain runs of character banners, but you can't add them to the hero pool a couple of months after you have their exclusive banner. No, we just get to see him once a year. That's definitely not a hostage situation. But we're here to talk about one of I guess the newest hostages, Ayaka. And for all of my people that have either gotten into the closed beta tests before this game ever launched or followed any of the early hype, but you guys should be aware that there was two characters that came out of every single person's mouth in that time period. That was our boy Zhao, okay, and our girl Ayaka right here. And unfortunately, both of them essentially got the same treatment on launch, to where they weren't necessarily nerfed or anything like that, but they just kind of arrived on the scene like a wet paper towel, just. And it's really, really disappointing, especially being one of the people that was in the closed beta test and got to see how crazy awesome that these champions were. Apparently that was only the case because they weren't standing next to every other power creep unit that Genshin has put out. And it's a little bit depressing. So for a little Genshin history, for those of you guys that don't know, these characters were immensely hailed as amazing champions that you absolutely had to budget and save for. Now, in the case of our boy Zhao, when if you were one of the people throwing thousands of dollars at the game, and you managed to get a lot of his constellations, he did much better. He almost rose to the role that he was hailed by the community in all of those months waiting for him to come out. Unfortunately, people have been waiting on Ayaka for a literal year at this point. They have been saving, they have been waiting for a pretty meh character. So all of my Ayaka people out there, I'm really, really sorry. I wish you got delivered a champion that was at the level that it should be at for the amount of hype and determination some people had. Some of the screenshots had to have been faked, but some of the stuff floating around Twitter with how much people had been saving for this champion, absolutely insane. I think this is one of the only characters in Genshin history we will ever see this long amount of hype for and this amount of saving. And it's she's just not that good. So some of the main criticisms with her kit is that it in part feels very clunky. There's a very specific way that you need to be able to play her that will also help offset some of the cons of her moves. A lot of people are not a big fan of her E because it's got a very long animation in it. Now with a little bit of sprinting, dashing, you can minimize that animation time essentially. But it's kind of one of those things where you're not cheating the system, but kind of trying to cheat the system so that she works in an optimal way. And that's kind of a sad place for this character to launch at. But what makes me personally a little bit more depressed is just the power scaling. That she came out with the numbers that would have been great if no other Genshin character had ever come out besides the ones that were in the beta. But that's not the case, and there's a lot, and a lot of them have had that power creep set and just turned up a little bit too high. So when you see a character that was as hailed as this one come out and not even be close to being a great DPS, she can still do damage. If you set her up in certain situations, she can still work some numbers, believe me. But when you look at the power scaling in the game, Ganyu is Mount Everest. Hu Tao is another really tall mountain that we probably should have looked up some more names of mountains before we started this reference. And I would argue that Ayaka doesn't even come in third place right now. I think she's somewhere in that neighborhood. I think people like Diluc will probably still beat her out. This one legitimately just made me a little bit sad to see. I was hoping for something really nice for all the Ayaka mains that saved for a literal year to try and pull her. Let's go ahead and take a look at her kit a little bit and talk about it a little bit more. So with our girl's E here, she essentially goes into a form that will apply cryo to all of her attacks. There's also a very heavy focus on working charge attacks in when you're in this form. I think the rotation is attack, attack, charged attack, because it'll lessen the amount of time the charge attack animation does, I think. Not 100% sure. We didn't happen to free this hostage, so I can't tell you from personal experience. But her rotation has a very specific way of trying to curtail some of her issues and things that are holding her back and making her combat feel a lot more fluid and a lot more fun instead of kind of slow and clunky. So there's a specific order you're supposed to be sticking to when it comes to this girl's rotation so that it feels a little bit better. Not the biggest fan of that because it kind of just, you know, you have to play this character this way is not great design. Usually you want their kits to have a little bit of wiggle room. If their kits have no wiggle room and there's just one specific playstyle that you have to adhere to, you're not going to have the best time. Shout out to all the Diluc fanboys out there that have just been pressing E, left clicking, and walking towards stuff since the beginning of time. I know it's been a while since you guys have probably felt anything, but you know, the rest of us love you. We hope you're doing well, and just keep hitting E and walking towards stuff, buddy. You're doing great. You're doing great. So there are already playstyles in the game that can be rather stale rather quickly. Again, I'm sorry, my Diluc people. I love y'all. I love everybody here. But there's a few memes to be made there. And I know you guys, I'm sure, feel that way. If they found a way to add something or spice up his kit, y'all be some pretty happy people. But it is what it is. Sometimes, you know, if the numbers and damage are there, it doesn't super matter if the kit's playstyle is boring. Next comes her burst skill, which again is in that same wheelhouse of you having to do very specific things to have it be optimized. Now, in a game where there are constant synergies and team combos, that's not an inherently bad thing, but specifically a lot of stuff can just walk out of this ultimate. You can combat that by using freeze teams so that things are locked in there and have to take that damage. But the same thing that we were just talking about a second ago, where because of issues inherent in the character, the playstyle is dictated to, if you do not do it this way, you are at a serious disadvantage, isn't great, especially once we start getting into the end of the field where we have all of these team synergies in a game where you're supposed to have lots and lots of combinations. If you are locked into having a certain combination to make a character work, it's bad design. It's not great. Not great, and I can understand why people are frustrated with that playstyle and why the answer of, oh, you just have to be using a freeze lock team to be able to get the most benefit out of this isn't the best news. That's not, it's a band-aid for something that is a problem. Having to be locked into those play styles, I think, undercuts what this game's trying to be. And if this had happened on literally any other character besides Ayaka, then I wouldn't really care too much and be like, oh, it's just bad design. They just need to work on that. Maybe they'll eventually fix characters. I don't know. Kind of seems like they just come out and then they never get touched again. All those people shouting for Amber buffs. Good luck. Good luck. That's all I'm gonna say. Good luck. So let's go ahead and side skirt the rest of the things in her kit and just kind of take a look real quick at her actual constellations, which is the third thing that I'm seeing brought up by the most people when it comes to her character. They're just not that great. A couple of them sound pretty good, but impact-wise, nothing super amazing. And while I'm not a gigantic fan of a constellation system in a game where they only allow you to pull the characters out of their hostage situation for very short periods of time, I'm not a fan of this system. It, again, is just mostly for whales, and I find systems like this incredibly exploitive. But usually, if you're spending that money, it's supposed to be insanely impactful, where we have some characters like Zhao, when they get max constellations, their kit really steps up, really takes some big steps. And there's a lot of other 5-star characters specifically that once you start getting into their constellations, the entire ball game changes on what they're capable of doing. Zhongli is another great example of that, of where that man straight up turns into a healer if you spend enough money on him. Now, you don't really need it, but again, the constellations are supposed to be impactful, and while some of them are worded pretty, and you might think they're great, everything I've seen from Wales has said that these are largely a miss. I think Ebb and Flow is one of the ones that is actually really sick, because again, that's a 30% defense break on him. Everybody gonna love doing some more damage. But things like the C6 aren't as impactful as they should be for being at the price tag of a couple $1,000s probably. Just maybe. Just maybe that's a little ridiculous. But again, I personally have a lot of issues with the constellation system and how unbalanced it is, given that all of the characters are in a hostage negotiation at all times in their lives. So this one personally is harder for me to be like, oh wow, that's a big problem. Like, oh no, the rich people are mad. So out of me being petty and being a poor person against people with insane amounts of disposable income, but I wanted to touch on it because it is something that, again, a lot of people have brought into the conversation, which becomes a short conversation because by the time there's another character teased or something like that, everyone's focus goes on to talking about them. So people have already kind of forgotten about our girl and moved on from her a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little sad to see. They don't even care that they killed your girl. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But as a man that has just recently been able to even launch the game again, shout out to the new motherboard that came in and the fact that we back and we live, baby. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are if you've actually tried Ayaka, and how many of you guys are even still playing this game, or if you just clicked on this video to see what I had to say about a little bit of Genshin Impact. Quick little personal ad for your boy here. We are going to be live this afternoon on Twitch, playing Rust on the Dark Horse Project server. It is a server just for content creators, so it is full with a ton of streamers, some other YouTubers, and it is absolutely amazing and complete memes. Your boy is going to be trying to set up a game within a game for some gamers, and hopefully be able to get that set up tonight. We did a lot of farming, a lot of stuff on the sides of the road today to make sure that we were able to do that later. We worked, okay? We put a lot of work in. So if you want to check that out, follow the description down below. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, because that is usually where I'll be posting if I'm going live on Twitch. And at some point we will go live on YouTube, but we wanted to try and do most of our Dark Horse Project server streaming on Twitch, because that is where all of the other content creators are streaming. So it's just, you know, easier to be doing it with other people where there's more visibility on it. I don't want to be the only dude on the DHP server streaming on YouTube. That's it's going to be hard for any of the other viewers to be able to find me when I'm popping up in people's streams. So we're going to be over on Twitch trying to do our thing there, trying to bring some laughs, some funny stuff, and, you know, just being a little bit petty, you know. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I really appreciate them faces, and you're going to have to catch your man on the next one, because we out of here. Deuces.